I think a lot of people think they need a big breakthrough. Like, no, you don't need a big breakthrough. What you need is consistency. You need to be consistent in your action. Consistency creates breakthroughs. Consistency in small steps creates larger results. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm super excited for you guys to be joining me again. This is part 2 of the Conscious Living book series. So if you have not checked out part 1, please go back and do so. Fill yourselves in. But obviously, as with any episode that I do, my job, my dream, my goal is to provide you guys with as much experience and value as I possibly can to help enrich your guys' lives and obviously help you guys transform into the person that you're wanting to become. You know, as we talked about in part 1 in the last episode, you know, waking up is just one part of the equation, right? And when I say waking up, I'm talking about becoming a conscious being, right? Like living in the present moment, making your decisions on your own, right? Choosing those decisions for yourselves rather than being someone who's being reactive to life, right? And just kind of reacting to what life throws at you. You're the one taking control for the most part of the things that you can. And so obviously waking up is just, you know, it's just one thing, but what you do next is everything. What you do next after you become consciously aware of how you're living your life and how you're being reactive and how life is just passing you by, what you do next is everything, because that is going to be the turning point in your life in which you make a decision and you decide, okay, there's got to be some changes that need to be made. And, you know, through my journey, you know, once I physically was aware and mentally became conscious of what was happening around me, what was happening for me, I knew I needed to make a change. And so, you know, the steps that came afterwards for me were very transformational, and it obviously led me to talking to you guys today and where I'm in now. And so, I mean, you guys are either going to commit or you're going to stay the same. It's just as simple as that. You're either going to commit to the things that you need to be doing, you're going to commit to the person that you say you want to become, or you're going to continue to choose to stay the same person that you are right now. And, you know, for me, I had to get to a point where it was like enough was enough. You know, like I think we've all been at that place in our lives where, you know, we've hit rock bottom, so to speak, or it's like you just get so, I don't know, the life just weighs on you so much. The conditions in which you're living and who you surround yourself just weighs on you so much that you just want change to happen immediately, that it almost like, it just like flips a switch in your mind and you're like, okay, you know, it's like you hit that barrier and it's like, that's enough. That's it. Like, I'm going to make a change regardless of what comes afterwards, regardless of how that's going to feel, regardless of how anyone else is going to react to my change. This has to happen, right? And so, again, you're either going to commit to that or you're simply going to choose to stay the same. And, you know, I go so far as to say, like, you know, change won't happen just because you want it to. It'll happen because you guys decide to do something uncomfortable, right? You guys decide to make a life-changing decision. You guys decide to make a change in your life that's probably going to be very uncomfortable. It's probably going to stir the ropes, right? It's probably going to create some more chaos in your life. It's probably going to end up having you lose friends or family. It's probably going to end up having you changing jobs or whatever that looks like for you, but it's definitely going to be uncomfortable. But I think, and I know for sure just in my own journey, like that's where the change comes from. That's where the transformation happens. That's where the growth happens, in uncertainty, in times in our life when things are not comfortable anymore, right? And they're a little bit unpredictable. But you have to have, you know, a lot of faith, and you have to have a lot of gumption. You have to have a lot of just belief within yourself that you're going to be able to get through it. There were times in my life when I felt burnout. I felt like, you know, I was just kind of surviving life, going through the motions. And if you guys have, you know, heard my story before, you probably have heard this already. But yeah, I was at a point in my life where again, I felt like I was just kind of robotic. I was just kind of like going through the sequence of life and just kind of, doing what needed to be done on a day-to-day basis. And it was just the same monotonous routine every single day. And, if you're anything like me, you have this feeling about yourself, right? Where you're like, there's this nagging, like, kind of like, I don't know, little man or woman on your shoulder, and like, you're meant for more. Like, this is not how you're supposed to be living your life. Like, you're not supposed to be on this particular trajectory that you are on. You're supposed to be somewhere higher. You're supposed to be, doing bigger things and better things. And I certainly felt like that majority of my life. And so, I got to a point where things had to change. I had to start making some really brash decisions about how I was operating, who I was communicating with, who I was learning from, the things that I was learning, and ultimately, that did lead to, some relationships being severed and some very close relationships being severed. But in the end, it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made, not only for myself, but for those that I loved, and for those that I cared for. Because in those moments when I was feeling burned out, when I was feeling like I was just kind of coasting through life, everyone around me was not getting the Michael Benton that you guys see now. They were getting a very average, standard version of myself. They just weren't getting the best me. And that wasn't fair to them. And it certainly wasn't fair to me either. And I knew that obviously the changes that I needed to make, they weren't just going to be just for me. The changes that I needed to make was to help and better everyone else around me that was going to be in contact with me, right? Whether that was loved ones or friends or distant strangers or whoever, right, that I came in contact with. I knew that if I was to change myself, that it would change others around me for the better, and they would have a better experience with me. They would have a better experience around me. And when I made that decision, that didn't come from hype. That came from frustration. That came from this burning desire in me to like want more and to do better. And the moment that I stopped and I committed to the decision that I made is when I stopped like waiting for the perfect timing, right? Because like I stopped waiting for something to happen for me or to me. I stopped waiting to be valued enough to get the raise, to be valued enough to be in this person's presence. I stopped waiting for someone else to bring up the hard conversations that need to be had, and I made a decision I was going to do it for myself. So one of the key takeaways I want you guys to really hear is that commitment is a daily action. It's not a one-time action, right? Like, you guys can go on YouTube, which I did, and like I learned a lot, right? And I watched a lot of motivational speakers, and it motivated me, right? But I want you guys to understand that motivation is a small spark, right? In your engine, right? In your mind, it's just a small spark, right? And it is great to have, but it's not long lasting, right? It's not long lasting. Motivation fades, and commitment is a muscle. It's trained, right? You go to the gym, you're working out your legs or whatever you're working out. You're doing that on a daily basis. You're training your muscles, right? To endure pain, to endure, rigorous activity. You're building that muscle, right? You're building that callus. Same thing with your mind. Same thing with your behavior. You got to be consistent, and you got to be able to commit to not just feeling that spark or that inspiration that you get from that blog you read or that cool quote you heard from somebody back in the day, or your favorite speaker said something that really just like motivated you to like take action that day. Like, no, bro, you got to like, that's got to be a muscle that you train every day, right? That's got to be a muscle that you endure every day. Because I think a lot of people think they need a big breakthrough. Like, no, you don't need a big breakthrough. What you need is consistency. You need to be consistent in your action. Consistency creates breakthroughs. Consistency and small steps creates larger results. You look at athletes and how majority of athletes come from poverty, and they don't have the finances that they come in contact with when they become stars. And so you hear all of them going broke because they didn't have, in the beginning, they didn't have the consistency to budget. They didn't have the consistency to understand finances, right? And so they couldn't work with what they had. Same thing with like someone who plays the lotto and you win millions of dollars and you hear about them going broke after year. There was no consistency in their life, in the areas of finances, in the areas of money management. They couldn't handle what they had, let alone handle 20, 30, 40, 50 times what they have now, right? It's because they didn't build consistency. They didn't have structure in place. They didn't do the small things over and over and over and over again, right? So you guys don't need a big breakthrough. You guys don't need something big to happen for you. You guys don't need to hit the jackpot, right? You guys don't need a big, huge win and then it's going to change everything for you. No, you do that by being consistent every single day in your actions and your behavior. That's how you get breakthroughs. And the second thing that I would tell you guys is like fear is proof that you guys are moving forward. Like in my journey, yes, there were moments when I was terrified because the actions that I was taking, there was so much uncertainty on the other side. I didn't know what to expect, what was going to happen from me having those hard conversations with the folks I had to. I didn't know what was going to happen with me, like really radically changing my mindset. And like, I had no idea. I didn't know what was going to happen in the future. I'm like, damn, is this going to work? Am I on the right route? I don't know. I don't know. But the biggest thing that kept me pushing beyond the fear, beyond the doubt, was staying the same, was being the old version of Michael, was having my children look at me in my eyes with disdain as they got older, because maybe they would look back and see how I treated them or how I didn't treat them. That's the things that, even though it was scary and even though it was fearful, I was still gonna do it anyway. Because I want you guys to understand, like, resistance, fear of failure, self-doubt, like those are all signs that you're doing something new. You've never experienced those things before because you've either shied away from them because maybe you did have an interaction with fear of failure. Or maybe you did have an interaction with doubt within yourself and your abilities. And so you shy away from those things moving forward. Right? And you have resistance. It creates resistance and you wanting to take action. But that's the sign that you guys are doing something new. That's the sign that things are awaiting you, right? Changes in your life, new relationships, new opportunities, transformation within oneself. That is a sign like, okay, there are new things on the horizon. And it's okay. Like you don't know what those things are going to be, right? You necessarily don't know. There's not a map that says, okay, at stop number 1, you're gonna build more confidence at the stop. Stop number 2, you're gonna meet this beautiful woman, or you're gonna meet this nice man. Stop number 3, your finances are gonna get better for you. Stop number 4, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to be willing to endure what is to come when you set foot outside of that door. Because if you guys were like me, I used this analogy before, but it was like, imagine standing in a hallway and you're facing the front door of your house or your apartment, whatever, right? Inside the home, that is a representation, right, of safety, comfort. I know the area. I know the terrain. The door is locked. Nothing's getting in. I know this area. I'm safe in here, right? And then imagining you opening that door, stepping out on that door jamb, right? That first foot as it steps out onto the concrete. That is where most people will venture out to. They'll kind of put their foot in the water, so to speak. And that is a representation of like uncertainty. You have no idea once you step out there what is going to happen. Fear is out there, right? Doubt is out there because you don't know the terrain. You have no idea what's coming next. I battled for a while of tiptoeing in and outside of the door. I never really fully wanted to leave that doorway. I never really fully wanted to get beyond the doorway and close the door behind me and be outside. I never, because it was too fearful. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was too much uncertainty. And so I would always try and dangle a foot out there, and I was like, nah. And I go back right back inside that hallway, and I'd close the door, and I'd be back into my safe zone, my comfort zone. And I feel like a lot of you guys are in that same spot where you either don't want to open the door at all, or if you do, or if you are feel brave enough to open the door, you don't fully commit to pushing yourself beyond that door. You know, discomfort doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're finally off of autopilot. I'm going to say that again. Discomfort doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. It just means that you're finally off autopilot, right? You're now thinking for yourself. You're now being a conscious being. You're now consciously living. You're now making your own decisions. You're now aware of what is going around you, what is transpiring from your actions that you're taking or the inactions that you're not taking. I like to think of it as, you know, when you first wake up and, you know, and your eyes are still kind of like, you know, you're kind of like open them up a little bit and you kind of close them and your eyes are still adjusting to the light, right? Because it might be bright in your room or whatever. And so that's kind of an analogy that I use when it's like you go from being a subconscious being to being a conscious being. When your eyes fully open and you can see what is around you and you don't have that haziness anymore. I don't know about you guys, but that's an amazing feeling. Because now I feel like at that moment, I can choose. I have a choice. I felt like prior, you know, when my eyes were closed, so to speak, I wasn't making the choices. Life was making the choices, and I was just going along with it, I guess, right? I didn't really know better that, or have the wherewithal or have the knowledge or the understanding that, okay, if I'm able to open up my eyes and get clarity, I don't have to do this. I don't have to be this way. I don't have to be treated like this. I don't have to do whatever, right? I can make my own choices and stuff. And so, you know, the third thing that I would have you guys take away from this is that the comfort zone is a silent killer. Biggest thing I want you guys to take away. The comfort zone is a silent killer. I don't even need to explain this because you guys already know this. You know it. You know it in the back of your mind. The comfort zone that you guys are in, the safety that you guys feel, the relationships that you're in that are just, you're just existing, but that you're scared of losing that person or losing that relationship because you don't know what's to come next. So you stay in those stagnant relationships. Like you're in your comfort zone. It's killing you. It's killing you. And then, you know, you meet people that have been in relationships just because, you know, they're doing it for the sake of the kids, right? And they don't want the kids to feel a certain type of way or to be sad or whatever. And so they stick these long relationships out and they go years and years of being miserable or living as roommates, right? And they do it because it's comfortable. It's safe to them. They've become safe to turmoil. They've become safe to fear. They have become safe to trauma. Essentially, it's familiar. Why would you leave anything that's familiar? It kills a lot of dreams. It kills a lot of ambition. It kills a lot of confidence in people. So you guys got to be very careful of that. If you're in that place right now where you just feel like, man, I got to stick it out. I can't open that door. I can't step outside that door because I don't know what's going to happen. You have to. You have to find a way. You have to find a way. If your pain and what you're dealing with is not strong enough, if it's not overwhelming enough for you to make a change, then yeah, you're going to be right where you're at for a very long time until you decide for yourself that you've had enough and that you don't want to face those things again. Again, people stay in these comfort zones because it's predictable. They know the outcome. They know what's going to happen. They stay at their job because they know they're going to get their paycheck at the end of the week or every 2 weeks, right? They know that they're going to get a 25-cent raise every year or whatever it is, right? They know that the spouse is going to stick around because they're just as scared of being left alone as the other spouse. I know what to expect when I go in my house. I know what to expect, that we're going to get into arguments because we don't agree on certain things. I know this. And because I know it, I've already navigated before. I'll just keep navigating it over and over again because it's predictable and it's safe and it's familiar. Why would I change? Why would I go to something that I don't know and risk the chance of getting my heart broken, risk the chance of losing my job, risk the chance of losing myself? Why would I risk that when I can just stay where I'm at because I know who I am in this area? I know the other person that I'm with. I know the situation that I'm in. I'm very familiar with it. Living paycheck to paycheck, I'm very familiar with that. Having mediocre relation, I'm very familiar with that. I can navigate that. I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. I can work with that. What I can't work with is not knowing if this relationship's going to work. Not knowing, I can't work with this person might break my heart, right? Or this career change that I'm making may not work out. I can't. It's too much risk. And I would also tell you guys, like, you guys don't grow because you're ready, right? You grow because you're refusing to settle. You're refusing to settle for the life that you've already been living. You're refusing to settle for the relationships that you're in. You're refusing to settle to be the person that you look in the mirror every single day and you ask yourself every single day, why am I living like this? Why me? Why is this happening to me? Why can't I have this? Why can't I be this? Right? Like, you guys you refuse to settle. You refuse to be average. You refuse to be just mediocre. You refuse to be just another name in another book. Another life walking this earth that is just living, is just here, just responding to life. You refuse to be that. That's when you grow. My growth happened for me when, like I said, when I got laid off and I made a decision, like right then and there, like, okay, I'm done with this life that I have. I'm done with it. I'm done with the person that I see in the mirror. That's when the growth came. When I refused to settle. When I refused to continue to live paycheck to paycheck. When I refused to continue to have surface level relationships with my family and my kids. When I refused, and I believed that I had so much to provide society, to give back, that's when I started growing for me. And I truly hope that you guys find that for yourselves. I truly hope that you guys make that decision for yourselves to not settle, to not rest with the familiar, right? But to take a chance on yourself, to believe in yourself, to step forward, step outside of that doorway, and endure what comes along the path, endure what comes along with you consciously making your own decisions, right? And being aware and being present and taking responsibility, right, as you move forward. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. You already know what needs to change. Okay? The real question is, are you committed to becoming the person who does it? Listen, guys, if this episode gave you any value, if it hit you guys differently, please go ahead and purchase my new book, Conscious Living, Wake Up and Take Control of Your Life. It's available on Amazon. I would also love for you guys to DM me the word commit at my Instagram handle at Michael_A_Benton and tell me what you guys are stepping into. Please share this with someone who's stuck and just wants more for themselves and is actually choosing to make a difference and make a decision. As I always tell you guys, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining me once again. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.